Okay, that was weird. Sometimes the stream has these weird false starts where OBS gives me some kind of error message about the stream key and the connection. I haven't managed to track that down to a root cause yet, but anyway. Back for a late night kind of brief stream here, but I wanted to take a look at this piece of hardware I found on the sidewalk yesterday on camera and record some of that. So this will be another late one. I don't know who will be around to actually hang out this time, but Tuco's here at least. Should probably get some tea or something. Oh, it looks like James is here in chat. Hello. Are we online both with Twitch and YouTube here? I think we're going. Tuco's certainly interested. I don't think we are actually quite seeing him. Let's get this on the DSLR. Yeah, I don't know, we had 2 announcements with the bot that time. Sorry for the spam. Just putting a... Oh, I guess the camera had a card in it. I just hadn't erased it yet. Let's do that. Oh yeah. Get a load of all that fuzziness. Good cat. All right. So, angles here. This light is kind of in the way. Alright, so yeah, this thing was on the sidewalk. This was like 24th Street in San Francisco. Yeah. So yeah, at the very least, it seems to be some nice, some nice copper here. So this power cable was part of the bundle. This wasn't like in a box or anything. This was just like sitting on the sidewalk, like somebody was getting rid of it. I mean, it actually looks like somebody threw it on the sidewalk. Like this looks pretty badly damaged. But there's this heavy power cable, which seems like it's in good shape. It's 14 gauge, which is actually worth some money. Like this cable is actually, you know, even like by prices, like it's probably like $6 or $8. And a computer store would charge you a lot more for it. And it seems to be in good shape. We can test it. Anyway, I've been trying to keep an eye on this because this is exactly the kind of cable that my cat will chew the heck out of. So I've been keeping it in a place where I don't think he can find it. I usually put crinkly split loop tubing over those sorts of cables to keep him from chewing them. It also came with this weird video cable. Was this completely out of focus when I was just handling it? Sorry. I forgot I was on manual. So yeah, pretty nice hunk of cord. Definitely hold on to that, assuming it's not booby-trapped. But it looks pretty normal. It's UL rated and everything. Okay, and then it has this weird thing, which I'm pretty sure this is proprietary. It goes from this end where the boot says in focus. If only it would be, right? Let's also hopefully get it to stop wiggling. So yeah, it's got this weird little cable boot. Kind of almost looks like something you would expect to see on like an old Power Mac or something. I mean, it kind of brings to mind like SCART or something like that, where it's a D-sub connector that incorporates various video standards, but this isn't SCART, right? I don't think it's SCART. I don't know that I've seen it in person, but like I'm pretty sure this is proprietary. And then this particular one goes to VGA, but I suspect there are other models of this cable that go to other input sources. So that's pretty weird. What have we got here? Box light, model 4000 from Poulsbo, Washington. Don't look directly at it, etc. Got some listings and some serial numbers, no user serviceable parts, etc. And it's almost certainly broken, as you can see. Okay, cool. James confirms that that's nothing like SCART. They're saying that SCART is nothing like that and is also huge. Cool. So we've got this along the front. This damage is right around the lamp compartment. So one possible scenario is this was somebody's office projector. They opened it up, noticed the lamp was burned out, and then just like got mad and like threw this out onto the curb. So that's one possible way this could have happened. So it could be that the light is just completely toast in there. That seems very likely. I think the most likely scenario is that the lenses in here are a little messed up, but mostly in good shape. The DLP is probably fine, and the light source is probably bad, but it's a little rattly. So yeah, and then there wasn't any remote with it. Yeah, James has a good summary of it. They're saying, for those who don't know, SCART is basically unknown in the US, but until recently it was quite common in Europe, and I'm in Europe. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen SCART in person. I might have seen it on some stuff at like a vintage computer expo or something. But I never like used SCART equipment here. It would have been pretty unusual. Okay. I mean, I could plug this in and just see what it does, but I'd rather not, because there are certain categories of damage that could be unsafe to just like plug it in, so I'm definitely going to take it apart before I plug it in. Here we can see what's going on in back. So yeah, it's in-focus projector that's been rebranded by Boxlight. And then this really needs to stop wiggling. I guess I would often put a sandbag right between the camera pole and the desk, and that would damp out some of the vibration, and I don't have that in there right now. So it's got audio input for this little puny speaker, I guess. Composite video, S-video. So these are both analog standard def, and then this is like everything else. It's probably pretty low res. But, you know, a lot of cool things don't need resolution. You can make a decent little 3D printer or a cat toy or something with even the most modest of DLPs. And it is definitely a DLP, so I am actually going to put some damping on that pole because that vibration is really bugging me. I'm just going to borrow a sandbag and see what doesn't need it. I'm not even hanging the sandbag on the pole, I'm just sitting against the pole. Oh, that helps so much. Cool. Sorry about that. Great. Let's get a little bit of footage now that the camera is no longer terrible. So yeah. I mean, this is basically, I was looking at it and being like, oh, I guess it's a terrible projector, but it's at least a DLP, right? It's worth taking. So I carried it around for a bit until I could get it home. Whoa, why did the camera just swing over like that? I don't know where Tuco is, but it'll find him. Okay, anyway, let's get this thing open. Oh yeah, this is the angly foot thing. Oh, makes that pop out. And that mechanism kind of still works. It's a little bit broken, but mostly works. Nice chunky switch. And some good mounting locations. Oh, let's see if we can just open this first, because it looks like this is still kind of openable. How does this come off? Oh, wow. James's projector of this vintage had a 50 kilovolt supply in for the lamp, which also seems interesting. As I assume we won't need the lamp. Wow, pop. Alright. Unplug power cord, wait 30 minutes. I think it's been off for more than 30 minutes. There's a clip right there. There's 2 screws. I think we want to take out the screws, and then there's a lamp underneath it. There's the wrong size screwdriver. I'm just going to see if I can get away with it. I'm like vaguely worried that this thing is gonna blow up or something. I don't know how already broken this light bulb is. Screws seem like they're attached to this cover. This is not supposed to be like that. So we have some bits of the fan mount just kind of loose in there. Oh, and here we can actually see the bulb does not look physically damaged. In fact, the only damage I really see is on the exterior-most plastic. Pretty much everything else looks alright. I don't quite see how this is supposed to work. It's possible the bulb is not bad, but that seems unlikely. It might be worth just opening the case, looking at the extent of the damage, making sure the electricals are fine, and then we could try powering it up. I was trying to take this off, but I don't see how the rest of this comes off, and now I'm having second thoughts now that I see how little damage there is around here. I'm gonna momentarily put these back on and just take a look at the rest of the unit. We can come back to the light bulb if we need to. James asks, does it rattle? The bulb or the whole thing? Now that I've got those fan mount pieces out, I don't hear any more rattling. Maybe a tiny bit. Yeah, there's a tiny bit more. I want to see if there's any conductive debris around the circuit board or if there's any damage around the power supply. Okay, those are kind of snug. What else? We need Phillips head. I'll go grab one of those. Oh, that gimbal is not entirely happy with where Tuco is right now. Yeah, it looks like the bulb is likely alright, and the lenses seem like I don't see any severe problems with the lenses through the front. I mean, it feels like it's probably pretty likely that the bulb is bad. I don't know why it would have gotten thrown out like this if it was in completely working order, but I mean, people do weird things with stuff all the time. It might just be really obsolete. Okay, I don't think there's any screws under those rubber feet. I'm putting those back. There's more broken plastic up in here. It might have also just accidentally fallen off of something, and then they might have assumed it was broken. Or it might actually be broken in some, like, mechanical way that they cared about. Yeah, I'm really surprised the lens seems to be in one, or well, all the glass. I'm really surprised all the glass seems to be in one piece so far. That's a long screw, wow. The corresponding screw on that side was just not there when I picked this up. I think the lens had to snap off first. There was something that was trying to come off already. I can hear, oh, okay. So there's a grounded mesh up there with plenty of dust. Lens ring, yelping cat. How is this in the front? Oh yeah, it's possible it fell off of like a ceiling mount. It's funny, like I see like broken stuff on the curb in the city and I immediately assume it was just like thrown by somebody, but it's certainly possible this was an accident. Yeah, can you see the light bulb in there? That glass looks alright to me. That's the bulb. Yeah, shock mount springs. I think you're right. Oh, you know, I bet this thing leaks light like nothing else when it's on. Maybe that's what they got rid of it for. That could explain it. There's a broken mount down here, which seems to be for the fan. It's not a big deal, but it is loose. There's a screw holding it on, but the plastic post is just dangling, so it doesn't seem like it's in danger of breaking anything, but it's also not holding the fan on. Yeah, lens stuff seems alright on this side. Let's get the cover off. How does that go? Seems to want to come off that way. Oh yeah, a bit of duct tape, I guess. That is also the hot exhaust area. But I'm also just intrigued that, like, maybe the most interesting uses for this don't even need the light source, you know? So it's like, I'm curious how broken it is, but I also don't necessarily care if the light source is broken, because I might not even want to use it anyway. These two probably have to come off. So far we have 3 of the same little, like, metric machine screw, maybe M3 looking things. And then that one really long one, and then the one that was just missing. But I don't know how much I care about the enclosure here, because I think I'm a little more interested in repurposing the electronics and the DLP. There's the high quality sound device. The electronics look fine. I don't know how any of this could have gotten damaged by the front impact, but it'd be nice to see what's going on in here still. Okay, that probably didn't need to come off, but maybe we can see in here. Oh, this just comes off now. So it looks like this is light and air insulation foam, I assume, to keep the airflow and the light around the lamp. Oh, this is great. There's the back cover. So, oh, this is nice. So we've got a thermal cutoff switch on the lamp housing. There's a fan right here. There's a big, so we saw the little fan, but there's also a big fan. There's 2 fans right here by my fingers. And then this must be the color wheel. So the light comes out this narrow aperture. It's colored in a kind of time varying pattern by this spinning filter wheel. And then the light bounces into the optical path somewhere in here. I think it goes through the filter wheel rather than reflecting off of it, and goes through down here, and then the DLP element must just be, I mean, this flex is going to lead to it, but it's in there somewhere. I don't even know what orientation the DLP would be in, but, oh, there we go. That must be the back of the DLP, the heatsink there. So, man, it's really tempting to just, like, not even bother with the light bulb and just, like, remove that, have that element, and then, like, kind of come up with my own way of illuminating that with, like, ultraviolet or whatever I feel like messing with. I mean, I have no idea what to use this for. This was just a random find, right? But it's pretty interesting. This hardware also looks incredibly modular. There's a stacked board assembly. I don't know, actually at first glance it looked like the top board was maybe manufactured slightly differently, so it kind of got my hopes up that maybe it was a module that was designed to have a clean interface, but maybe it was just the dust and the back versus front layout tricking me. Because it could possibly, I mean, it probably is just like a single proprietary design that's split onto 2 boards. So this bottom section is all power supply, and it is a unit. I can't quite read the brand. Oh, here it is. VXI is the manufacturer. It's a 270 watt power supply. 3.3 volts, 5 volts, 12 volts, 8.5 volts, negative 8.5 volts, and a variable 28 to 60, which is their big old thing at 270 watts. Wow, that's great. And is there a separate power, like high voltage lamp supply maybe? Yeah, I don't know. This might not be an arc lamp. It might just be like a low voltage DC lamp, but I don't know. Oh no, the high voltage is up in here. This is 19 kilovolts and it's labeled 19 kilovolt repetitive ignition pulse, hazardous voltage inside, LP420 optical path. And that's just the thing that also has the thermal cutoff bolted to it. Or, yeah, riveted to it, I guess. James says the DLP will be mounted directly on the PCB. Well, so the DLP is right behind that heatsink, and it seems to be on a special kind of PCB. So it looks like there's this like kind of whitish PCB material, and that's, I think, what the DLP is actually on. And then, I don't know why the flex is so thick. I assume it's something to do with thermal. It's also just got a lot of connections. Wow. Never mind. You can, so a lot of that is just shielding, but then you can start to see the connections in there. So not the circles, those are just vias. Yeah, you can kind of see the pad. So it's got 3 rows of vias, I think. No, maybe just 2 rows. That's a lot of pins. That's probably like 100 pins. Oh, 160 it's labeled. Okay. That's cool. There's also a 4-wire flex right here, which is also going, I think that's the motor for the color wheel. This one right there. It's going down into this disc, the color wheel disc. I wonder if there's a feedback sensor for the color wheel. There must be, right? I mean, I guess maybe there doesn't have to be. If it's like a 3-phase motor and it's just synchronous, but yeah, I actually don't know how the color wheel feedback would work, whether it be electrical through the motor windings, or if there's a separate sensor or what. Or if it's like a stepper or like a 3-phase motor. Okay, I don't know how much I feel like unstacking the boards versus just turning this on next. So we can see a good bit of the electrics just through the side here. There's a digital chipset by Genesis. There's some other like input chips over here. Like, there's actually one that's InFocus branded. I don't know if that's just firmware or if it's actually part of the analog. Swift, that's probably an ASIC. That looks like the main ASIC, GMZ1 from Genesis. There's some RAM up here next to it. 100 megahertz oscillator in a can. That's pretty archaic. How do they get past EMI testing with one of those? Oh, here's another InFocus ASIC. Branded LSI and InFocus. Oh, James guesses that that little flex was just feedback from the color wheel motor and that the power is elsewhere. That certainly could be it. Just looking around. I don't see any other wires going into that can, though. There's a... What's going on here? So this wire is power for the front panel fan. This is going up there. This red wire is power for this fan. The flex is going in there. I don't see anything else going into the motor. I assume that that would have to be the power for the motor, and that then they're getting feedback some other way. There's also this going into the optical path. Oh, that's how they're doing feedback. I bet that's a photodiode. I bet they've got a stripe on here that they're timing with the photodiode. So I bet that this is just like an open loop brushless DC motor controller, and they're getting rough timing from that, but then they're getting precise timing with the photodiode, is my immediate guess. But yeah, that's, I don't know. That's my current guess. I mean, it's certainly possible that's wrong, but that's my intuition about how that works, and we're looking for evidence. Anyway, I'm just going to take this apart the rest of the way so we can see the board, and then let's just power it up and see if it works at all. Alright, so these are torques. Do I have those handy? Torques. Oh, can I be lazy and use one of these? Probably not. Let me find the right screwdriver for this. Conductive debris on my screwdriver, no. It's so nice when the camera actually tracks Tuco successfully while I'm doing other things. Looking forward to more of that as they give the robots more mobility. Let's start off with this actually because it's easier, and then let's get to the goodies. I think this just snaps off. These are the buttons and the IR receiver and some LEDs. So that reveals the InFocus branded LSI chip up here. So that's the big InFocus ASIC. There's the small InFocus ASIC. There's the Genesis ASIC. There's a bunch of RAM next to the InFocus ASIC. But yeah, let's get this other board off now. Oh, and if we feel like tinkering around with the circuitry on this, it's kind of nice that this comes off, because I'm almost certain this, well, that's funny. I was about to say, I'm almost certain this would run without this board even plugged in, but now I'm noticing there's actually a lot more circuitry on here than I expected. This might be another microcontroller. There's a number stamped on it like that's a firmware revision maybe. There's a crystal. They might have a micro handling the buttons and the IR, which means maybe this communication protocol like between this micro and this is something we could look into. That could be interesting. This metal bracket, what is that for? That seems to be reinforcing this S-video connector? Or maybe that's just how this whole thing mounts. Maybe it is how the whole thing mounts. This is pretty cool, actually. This is like old enough that it probably has a lot of exposed interfaces between parts rather than just being one or two chips. But it's also new enough to maybe still be worthwhile hacking at and not just be completely obsolete. Alright, so is this a locking connector? Am I gonna break? Oh, let's be really careful with that. And I'm gonna have to undo this flex for the color wheel. I'm noticing right where that plugs in, there are 4 SOT23 packages that could be little transistors, which is consistent with that being kind of like a stepper motor driver sort of thing. Is this going to be a TI chipset? Oh yeah, that's, oh man, XC4036 FPGA with a PLCC firmware, or like ROM next to it. Sorry, let me get this whole thing on camera. This is beautiful and you need to see it all. I don't want to overextend this cable too badly, so I'm going to try to prop it up on something. Just a sec. Yeah, this is beautiful. Sorry, I'm excited about this. This is the best thing I found on a sidewalk in a long time. I mean, we found some good stuff on sidewalks, though. Found some records and a Mac. And that stuff was all pretty good. Oh, geez, this is the wrong tool to be using for this. Just a sec, let me grab a better thing to prop this up with. Yeah, I don't know quite if we're talking about the same part, but there was definitely a PLCC, like EEPROM looking thing on there. As VCH in YouTube chat says /uptime. Well, this stream has been going for like 30 minutes, but I did have like a 3-hour or 4-hour stream earlier today. Xandria Smith is asking, what's the parallel looking port? That is where the video all comes in, it seems. This came with this cable that went from that weird connector, which isn't quite parallel port, but is kind of like SCSI-ish, I guess, or something. Anyway, this is just like some kind of weird proprietary video connector, and they have a cable going from that to VGA, but it probably has other stuff on it too. Whoa, hey Took. Oh, this is beautiful. Okay, so let's take a look at all of this. Man. This is quite a hacker's delight in here so far. So big board-to-board connector right next to the XC4036. I've used some of that same series. Like, these FPGAs were like kind of the bee's knees in like the early 2000s. And I had a dev board for the 4010 at the time, I think. So this is bigger than the ones I had at the time. That's cool. And then, oh, that might be a little overexposed here. Can we turn that down? So yeah, that's some kind of programmable ROM, I assume. And then another, what is that? Let's find out what's under those stickers. Oh, what is that oscillator? That's 48 megahertz. And is it socketed? No. Oh my gosh. It's like a through-hole oscillator, but the pins have been bent outward so it's surface mounted. That's interesting. HD, it's a Hitachi microcontroller, maybe? Can I just get that with my fingers? Yeah, right, this thing has all sorts of delightful stuff on it. I'm just gonna ditch these number stickers for now. If I really need to find out what the numbers were, I can refer to them from some other location, like, I don't know, my data files, or say the back of this connector. Yeah, I'll just stick it there. Oh, that's an H8. That's a Hitachi 8-bit microcontroller. It's the same one that the original Lego Mindstorms used. So yeah, and that's definitely going to be programmed. And then, what's under here? Assume this is going to be just a memory chip. And it is next to the FPGA. Oh, this is a TI chip. TMS 27 or 21 or something like that. Well, let's get a closer look at that. So those might both be TI, or both be microcontrollers, the TI and the H8. Interesting. Let's just get a nice slow pan over this board. Alright, so that was the, man, TMS. Could it be a TMS2, no, it doesn't look like a 230 or something. It's hard, I don't know. James asks, why would you socket a microcontroller like that? So you can reprogram it. Alright, I'll clean it. Oh, Took's on the rack. I wonder if I can get the robot over there. Does it see him? Ah, geez, that focus is bad. Let me see if I can fix the focus. Maybe then it would see the cat. It's hard to tell on that little screen. Now that I'm back here, it looks kind of terrible. Well, I think the focus is better, but now Tuco left the rack. Oh well. I was just going to try to clean this so you can see the chip a little more clearly. That is... yeah, it's some kind of TMS 270 series microcontroller, but I can't quite see what it is. I think that's TMS 273. That's what we got, folks. 2 microcontrollers. I'm not going to spend that much time trying to decipher exactly what this is, but I think we can get the gist. Sorry, I had a little kink in the camera arm there, so I couldn't quite back it up exactly the right amount. Chris says, I want coffee to go with the stream, but it's midnight. What do? I know, right? I have the same problem sometimes. Sometimes I go for mint tea. I like mint tea. All right. James says it's 6:30 here and I'm eating a jar of peanut butter. Alright, let's get some more glamour shots of this board and then the other board and then see if we can turn this thing on and see if it blows up. So there's RAM, there's some regulators. I assume those 3 chips in the middle are either regulators or clock distribution. Get a closer look. PL49. Yeah, I don't know what those would be off the top of my head, but... Oh, there's also a really furry looking JTAG connector there. That's funny. I don't know why it's covered in fluff. I guess this whole thing is exposed to some airflow sometimes. Oh, good question from Goopy asking what year the projector is manufactured. I think we had a look at the sticker underneath. It was a little hard to flip it over right now, but we'll take a look at that in a sec. See if we can find a year. Yeah, what is that fluff? That's just dust. It just looks weird from this angle. It's just dust. It's directionally applied dust. Here is the DLP chip. Whoa, codename is Andromeda. F71105 for GFN from TI. I should maybe just take this off the stand because this camera is maybe... if I just rotate this and undo a bunch of Velcro, I can actually get the camera handheld again and show you what's on this board. And then... with all the worst things about handheld, right? Actually, it's kind of great that this is an image stabilized lens. You probably notice on my wobbly rigging for this camera a bit more, not for the image stabilization. So we've got Andromeda DLP, we've got a bunch of RAM. What is that SR16 thing? Is that a Renaissance microcontroller? On the right, next to the DLP chip. So we've got, man, maybe 3 microcontrollers on this board. And then there's that other one next to J2 that's A something or other. Is that Allegro? I wonder if that has to do with... Oh, yeah, that's probably a motor controller. Because that is right next to the color wheel connector, and Allegro usually makes motor controllers. So we've got 3 shunt resistors. Yeah, this is a 3-phase brushless DC motor controller. Q1, Q2, Q3. The little SOT23s on the other side were not transistors. Those were probably just protection devices. And then here we've got MOSFETs, MOSFET drivers. I can't believe I'm still doing this all handheld. And an Allegro A8902 motor controller. This is beautiful. This is really good. Yeah, I think this... Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, James points out the Texas Instruments logo here. Yeah, so I think this whole thing is an off-the-shelf DLP driver module, which is really cool. If we can find and/or generate documentation for this board, that could be super fun. Because it does look like this just has a bunch of canned functionality that TI provides to drive their DLP chips. Okay, I'm really losing the ability to handle this handheld, so... Oh gosh, and then Hookko's making a mess. Let me get this back on the tripod. But yeah, that's making me happy so far. What a good find. Thank you, 24th Street. Oh, cool, dust on the optical sensor. Yeah, we just noticed the optical sensor on this. I was curious how the feedback worked, and it looked like the DLP itself is just a 4-wire, 3-phase brushless DC motor. and we just found the motor controller circuitry, and it looked like the feedback was mostly just one photodiode. So, yeah. This module, actually, let me see if I can get there without flipping this camera around again. So this module seems to be just a Texas Instruments drop-in module. There's a TI on the silk screen and in the copper there. As far as I can tell, it has an FPGA, 3 microcontrollers, and a Texas Instruments ASIC on it. So that's a TMS 3 something or other. That's a Hitachi H8. I think that one's Renesas, but I'm not quite sure. And then that's a motor controller from Allegro. So they could just be, this is why I love really early technology, because you find these like sprawling designs where they haven't just packed everything into one chip yet. It's really fun to take apart. And then got this great connector. So that's really fun so far. What is this bugger right here? That looks like a coil maybe. I wonder if that's like a choke for the motor, because it's right next to these 3 resistors, which are current measurement. It might be transformers to isolate the current measurement. I wonder if they would do it that way. It seems more likely it would be like ferrite chokes. Oh yeah, back EMF sensing. Cool, yeah, James confirms that is a nice fancy 3-phase motor driver on a chip. What a nice thing. Cool. Oh geez, just a sec, let me deal with a YouTube spammer. Alright, sorry about that. Oh, and while I'm here, we've got a Hi Tuco from Numist. It's been ages. I think that's a person I am familiar with. Where is Tuco anyway? I think I lost him after he left the rack. I'm just gonna leave the camera in this vicinity and we'll see if we pick him up. All right. So yeah, what a great little thing. So that's the TI board. And then looking at this is the board from InFocus, which was then rebranded by whoever the bozo's name on the front panel of this is. What was that? Boxlight. What a weird name. We gave you a box. There's a light in it, we think. Good luck. Maybe it's in focus. Speaking of focus. Yeah, and so as far as InFocus goes, this chip says InFocus, this chip says InFocus, this chip says InFocus. Wow, we've got 3 nice A to D converters. I wonder if those are for these analog inputs. How would that work? 3 A to D converters. That's AD9057. That would probably be for the VGA then, right? Because like that's the only thing I can think of where they would need 3 nice video rate A to Ds with this particular set of inputs. So those are probably the VGA going here. Is this JTAG? Is this just like a big ol' fucking shrouded JTAG sticking way out there? That looks like a bodge even. I don't even know if they make connectors like that. There's like a big space between the shroud and the bottom of the connector. Like really? I've never seen them like that. It's just like a floating JTAG or serial or something, some kind of floating debug connector. Oh, right. You're reminding me that's the remote control board from earlier. Yes, you're right. That's not debug. That's the thing we took off. But it is probably still a serial port of some kind. Because there was another microcontroller, which we didn't look at. This is the remote control board that plugs in there. And so it's got like filter inductors and capacitors, some tantalums, 4 megahertz crystal up here. Consumer IR receiver module. It probably is one of those standard ones that has amplifier and demodulator built in. How does this come out? There are these little plastic tabs. I thought I could get them all with my fingers. I'm missing some. Oh, I think that's what you do. You poke those two potentially at the same time. That seems super annoying. Let me see if I can cheat and just peel this off without actually taking the board out. Almost get that sticker off in one piece. Oh, is that a pick? Pick 16C63, I think. I can't quite tell. Let me see if I can get the rest of this off. I don't recognize that number. I think that does say 63. I wasn't familiar with that part number, but that might be a real thing. Yeah, pick 16. Is that really 6 and not 8? Yeah, pick 166304. Nothing special. Just a really old pick. Alright, what else is on this big old thing? So that's 4 different microcontroller architectures, yeah, at least. I'm sure they were not shy about adding additional architectures. Here's a 68331 Motorola. Add another architecture. Here's some flash memory. This InFocus is another LSI something or other. The code name on this is Gwyn, G-U-I-N. I was hoping to see like an ARM logo or something on maybe one of these, but so far no indication about what core might be on these big old chips if they have an onboard processor, which they probably would. Yeah, and then this little one over here is labeled Swift, which is interesting. It's maybe another like video processing ASIC or some sort, but it's pretty low pin count. So where to start here? Well, there's the board-to-board connector that goes to the DLP. Got some power supply filtering. That's right next to this InFocus LSI that's labeled Gwyn. That, I think, is RAM, NEC, D451616. I assume that's RAM. I don't know what this chip would be. I assume this is some other interface chip, but I don't recognize the markings. It's SEC. There we go, SEC 740D, something or other. We can also get the NEC chip there. Yeah, so there's the InFocus LSI, there's the RAM. Don't know what that is, but it's next to the inputs. Another InFocus LSI chip. That one says Peng. P-E-N-G is the code name. 100 megahertz CAN, whatever they're doing with that. Genesis GMZ1. This thing is just so many separate architectures that were just bodged together. It's just really phenomenal. This is what goes to, I think, the light sensor. So this is probably like an op amp. I think that's a comparator. That's the 68332 or 331. So maybe that one. It's interesting that the light sensor would be separate from the actual brushless motor controller. It's possible that isn't needed for the feedback on the color wheel, that all of that comes from the current feedback on the windings. Oh, is that another EEPROM? This little thing? I'm gonna pop the label off of that one too, because I want to see what the chips are. And that might be an EEPROM, or it might be a micro, and my camera's too close either way. Oh, good question from James. Is there another layer? I think everything underneath is the power supply, which I don't know if I'm going to go into this time around. I think I'm going to plug this in and try it out before opening up the power supply, because I'm not that interested in the internals of the power supply right now. It had a label on the side of it indicating the outputs, which seems like an alright level of abstraction for me at the moment. I'm gonna clean this up a little. Yeah, the power supply here is huge. I don't know. Yeah, quite. And actually, I haven't established where the power enters this board yet. How does that part work? I don't see any connect. Like, this is a metal box right below here. And this goes to the fan on the front. This goes to the speaker. This is a relay for some reason, I think. That's the thermal switch going into the power supply can. Oh, geez, I was trying not to do that. I don't think it's that bad, but still. There's a big connector over here between the lamp module and the main power supply. I'm still a bit at a loss for where the power goes into this board at the moment. Oh, is that it?
What is your main computer?
I think I might see something. Oh, sorry. I think there might be something in this area between the power supply and this board.
Have either of you had a Chromebook?
Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah, sorry, I totally missed these pins. That goes directly into the power supply module. And there are a couple more devices on the back side. It looks like maybe there's some more RAM under this area. Whoa, there's also a 24 megahertz crystal right over here. And yeah, I don't know, the power supply is kind of interesting. We might go into there, although my inclination is to maybe try turning this on before going in there. Yeah, thanks. I guess James beat me to it. That 0.1 inch next to the Gwyn chip is where it comes in. Yes, I totally missed that before. All those tantalums should have been a giveaway too. Okay, so we got Gwyn. We've got Pang. That MC68 whatever over there. The Genesis, lots of RAM. This little in-focus chip is kind of weird. The Swift. That looks like... I mean, it doesn't seem like it'd be processing the analog directly, but maybe that's getting the digital streams out of those A to D converters. And then what's that ST chip next to it? TDA7433O. So is that an op amp? And that connector there is the speaker. So I assume some of this would be audio output related.
So, and I couldn't try and find that for
Yeah, wow, this is great. Well, unless anyone desperately wants to see inside the power supply right now, I think I'm going to try to power this thing on and see how much of it actually works. Alright, so I'm going to stick this back on. And stick this back on. That is a little sharp, but fine. Motory thing. Trying to scoot that in there gently. Cool. I think we just need to put 4 screws in and then plug it in, and let's see what happens. Like, I'm probably not going to put the whole case on. I think it'll run with just these 2 fans. I don't know. I'm not planning on leaving it on long. I'm screwing at least these boards back together because this is kind of delicate and thermally and electrically relevant to the rest of the setup. But I wasn't going to put that back on. Oh, Tuco, there you are. He was sitting on this black carpet and I didn't even quite notice.
It's not exactly that, but it's close.
Okay. So the power comes in on this side, right into the power supply box. So the high voltage isn't even really exposed at this level. This stuff will be hot and possibly malfunctioning. And a lot of just like brightness is going to be coming out in that direction, so I'm going to be trying to like keep that away from me and Tuco while I'm testing this. So let's try this. I'm going to grab a power source. Ideally, I always want like an extension cord or something I can, with like a nice on-off switch. Ha 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 ha! Okay, cool. Folks are placing their bets on how dead it is. Dr. Toon says that they bet the power supply works, but there's no image and no bulb, or the bulb doesn't work. And James bets that one of composite and VGA are broken and the rest is fine. I think Keith is betting that it's just a loose connection. Sodium says 80% the bulb is dead, and there's probably also something wonky with the optics path. Yeah, that sounds about right. I needed just the right cord. I just like to have some idea of how much power is being used too. Alright, so let's start off with this off. That switch will be on. And let's also take the button pad for the top panel, if we can. Well, maybe I'll just lay this on top. That'll also help block us from the optics path a little bit. I just really want this on enough that I can use the buttons, though. That feels like it's working. Oh, is there? I guess that's this power button. It's marked standby. Alright, so... Alright, well I've got the power switch on the side on, and let's give this a shot. 3, 2, 1... Contact. Well, you can hear some fans and maybe a color wheel. I don't see any light or flames or smoke, which is nice. Heard the fans change speed a couple times. It seems like we didn't need the front cover because it's just like, it doesn't sound like it started up in standby. I'm going to give it just a sec and then try pushing the standby button just to see if it does anything, whether it tries to turn on or off. Yeah, I don't see any lights either. I don't know if we're just not noticing them. I'm going to try turning the studio light off. And... oh, there we go. It's just not very bright. That is the microscope light on low. Wow. Yeah, so it's just on super dim mode. I'm going to try pressing standby. Can't quite tell if that worked or had any effect. The case isn't quite on, so it's kind of hard to tell if I'm actually fully pressing the buttons, but I'm pretty sure I am. So I'm guessing that it's like stuck somewhere in startup, and so I can't actually turn it on or off at this point. But yeah, it seems likely at the very least something is wrong with the bulb, and maybe there's some kind of other connection problem. Oh yeah, and Dr. Toon says it might also be just like logic bulb is blown or something, and it's on 100% fan by default or something. And Dr. Toon's also asking if there's a remote control UART connection. I didn't see one on the back, but it might be part of that big ol' proprietary connector somehow. Alright, I'm going to turn the power off, and then let's open the case. I don't know what the next step is, but I also might just call it a night, like once we've just done a very, very brief look at this. But it seems like a good start at least, seeing what's on this thing and what's even going wrong with it. I wonder if there would be any status LEDs or any places where we could check voltages. Also, I couldn't tell whether that was the color wheel spinning up or just the fans. It sounded like it might have been the color wheel. Maybe let's just try that again with this cover off and see what we notice this time around. I'll also try to get a better camera angle. Let's decrease the light maybe. Okay. Same setup. I'm just going to throw the AC power switch again. And oh, let's also look at the power usage. I've got this watt meter plugged in, so let's actually use it. So 3, 2, 1, contact. That sounds like the color wheel. And not all the LEDs are on. Most of them are on, but there are some of them that are off, so maybe the pattern is relevant. It's using 26 watts. And the fan is cycling a little bit. Was that noise really the main fan? It sounded more angry than the main fan, but who knows? Alright, turning this off again. This isn't really random, but I'm going to try reseating the connector for the photodiode and the fan. Well, the fans are probably fine because they're running, right? And they don't have any tachometer sensing. And we already reseated the color wheel. But I'm just going to try unplugging and plugging in the diode. I doubt that's going to make any difference, but... What's the wattage when the sound changes? Oh, good idea. I'll check that next time I have it on. There are so many debug connectors on this. There's like 2 on this board at least. Oh, there's another connector pointing down toward the power supply right around here. Oh, that's headed to a crystal. There's a 24.576 megahertz crystal soldered to a header on the bottom side of the board. That is also weird. Okay, I think I reseated that successfully. Let's try that again. 23.2, 22.9. Let me see if I can just put this in the frame. $27. So a small change that is correlated with the fan noise change. I don't know what that means. Maybe it's going into some kind of cycle of getting ready to start the lamp. What was that? Did you hear that? Couldn't tell if that was the crinkly stuff moving or something else. I feel like I'm just getting jumpy now. I'm gonna turn it on and watch it again. There is a click coming from the speaker also. Okay, James thinks it was most of the crinkly stuff. Yeah, maybe I'm just making myself jumpy with this now. Yeah, Stephanie in YouTube chat says to be sure the capacitors are discharged when you touch the boards, which is very good advice. When I was handling this earlier, it had been unplugged for a long time, like at least since when I found it yesterday, but probably a lot longer. And just now, I was only handling the low voltage side of it and only pretty carefully, but yeah, that's good advice for sure. Especially the high voltage side, like definitely the AC side of the power supply, probably also some of the stuff around the lamp supply might have some lingering high voltage. Dr. Toon says it's not a good sign that the fan is on 100%. Yeah. It says the CPU should have spun it down by now and be flashing bulb error at you. Yeah, I wasn't sure user interface-wise how that usually worked, but I guess it probably would just be some kind of LED pattern, I assume. But yeah, this might be a more complicated failure. Like we might have to actually go through and figure out like power supply voltages and like which of these many microprocessors are operating and which ones aren't. Whoa, really? Electron Ash says the connector nearest the back left of the machine has a parallel 24-bit RGB input. You mean the one that goes board to board here? That's pretty cool. Oh, James says, random thought, check the resistance of the thermal cutoff. Okay, we can do that once it's off next time. A couple more comments from YouTube. Stephanie says, maybe the hard drive is dead. I don't think there's a hard drive in here. But maybe you mean like the storage on the main processor, and yeah, it could be something like that. And then they're asking if I know Big Clive. I mean, I know of their channel, I don't know them personally. And then check out the service manual? Maybe. We could look for a service manual. I doubt we would just find one, but yeah, maybe that's worth checking. And then yeah, Donald is also asking if we could check the temperature sensor. So yeah, we could try that. Alright, yeah, no more clicks. It seems good. Let's unplug this again. Get our beepy meter probe thing with the beeping and the probing. Yeah, I'd be really tempted to just try to find documentation for this TI board and see, like, if the problem is anywhere else, then it'd be great to just like take the TI board and use it for something independently. Because just the DMD and the driver for it, if I can use those on their own, would be a great little package. Like, people buy those for large amounts of money, and I would be able to experiment with it without having to buy one. It's still closed, which I assume is the right status for that. I think that was going directly to the power supply. Yeah. So we could go a layer deeper into that. The power supply is mostly enclosed, but it is kind of open on this back side where the fan blows in, mostly. And so the connections are a little weird. There's like one connection over here between the high voltage lamp driver and the power supply. And then there's that 0.1 inch connector over here. There's maybe a few things that we could look at on the back of this board. But I think that's probably a good stopping point for tonight. I didn't want this to be a long stream. I just wanted to look at this a little bit. And we can plan some time later to go deeper into this if we feel like it. And maybe if you have any ideas in the future, if you're watching this in the archive, leave a comment on the YouTube video, and I do look at those, and I usually respond to them. And if you leave a comment about something we can check into, that'll definitely make it into a future stream. So we can do that. Oh, cool. Electron Ash has some history doing kind of FPGA mods on color wheels. That's pretty cool. A color wheel replacer that interfaced to the serial bus that went to the Allegro motor driver chip, and then so you could just pretend to be the color wheel. That's great.
I've definitely witnessed that.
Stephanie is also suggesting inspect the capacitors, please. Yeah, we could look at all the capacitors. That's just that's not quite the level of debugging that I'm prepared to do in this stream. We can do that in the future, but like right now, I don't have the time to go through and check all the capacitors and all the subsystems. And I think I would probably do something pretty methodical, where the first thing I would probably do is find all the important power rails and then just check them on the oscilloscope and see what the quality is. And I think that would give us more information about where to look for the further problems. Additionally, if I can find documentation for this board, then start probing all the signals on this connector. That would probably be one of the next things I try. So there is a plan. There are steps to try for this. I just don't have time for that tonight because it's like 11 p.m. and I just wanted this to be a short stream. So, but yeah. Oh, and some people had asked about the brand name. Let's take another look at the sticker on the bottom.
Yeah. It's like really
I can't believe so many people are watching. It's so late. It's like pretty late in most time zones. And yet we still have like 60 people watching. It's great. So it is in focus manufactured, Boxlight branded. I didn't see a specific in-focus model number on this. Oh, here's the power supply, which also has some good info, but is not in-focus branded. Oh, wait, IFS is probably in focus, but I think VXI is who actually manufactures this. And so, yeah, this is pretty great, right? It's a universal power supply, a bunch of good logic outputs. Then we have plus and minus 8.5 volts, as well as 28 to 60 for the lamp, I assume. Sodium says they recall a model number. Let's take another look. Everything on the bottom is Boxlight branded. On the front, there's this image by InFocus badge, but it doesn't have a model number.
Yeah, that's real.
And on the lamp, there's a separate number, but nothing InFocus related. Sticker right there. Oh, John says there were numbers inside the top of the fan. You mean the optical path assembly up here? This is the one that had the 19 kilovolts warning. So this is an in-focus part. We might be able to find some cross-reference where some other in-focus service manuals might contain references to this part as well. E140129, the LP420 optical path assembly. Oh wow, InFocus actually has a product page just for the LP420. Cool. Oh, cool. Yeah, apparently it's a really convenient time of day in Australia, parts of Europe, and New Zealand. Well, nice. I'm glad to say hello to some new time zones. Well, that's cool. I think John might have nerd sniped me with this URL. Let's go take a look at what InFocus has to say about the LP420 optical path assembly. I don't know, I switched back to the Mac that's running Gitter, and I think I had the problem where Gitter hadn't actually updated anything in a while, and now it's like beach balling trying to process hours worth of updates. I need to deal with this. Force quit. Oh no, as John's saying, unsurprisingly not much. Let me ignore Gitter and just like open up a web browser and head over there so I don't make you all wait for me to debug my computer stuff. Oh, here we go. Thank you.
It sounds like San Francisco.
Oh, did I type that wrong? Oh, let me actually get this together. That's right. I can just ignore the actual application. Oh, the product manual. Oh, so LP420 isn't the optical path, that is the entire product. Which looks like exactly what we've got. Okay, cool. So this is a rebranded InFocus LP420. This is a Cable Wizard light cable. That's terrible. None of that makes any sense. But yeah, 24-bit RGB going into that TI board sounds nice. Never operate without the lamp door. Troubleshooting for Windows 3.x. 1024 by 768. There was something about resolution of 1024 by 768 or less. I'm actually kind of curious what the panel resolution is now. Is that what we've got here? $800 by 600. Okay. So this is pretty obsolete, and it's also broken. But interesting. And 800 by 600 could still be interesting for a lot of the stuff I would do with a modified DLP, honestly. Cool. Alright, well, I think I'm going to wrap up the stream for tonight, but this is pretty interesting. It was definitely a good sidewalk find. So, yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. Oh, Ash found the real service manual. I missed that link here. Oh my gosh. Thank you, JavaScript, for enabling all of what we have here. Oh, interesting. Native res of 1024. That's cool. Oh, nice. Yeah, no, I was reading the source code long enough for the timer to flip. Why does this... How did that even get there? Oh yeah, definitely saving this for later. They make this thing look so high-tech. That's really cool, though, getting a little line drawing of the CAD model they have. With the DLP chip in the right place and everything. It's great. Upgrading the software. Installing software on the projector. Oh. There. Oh, penguin. Aww. This is so cute. I found a penguin on the sidewalk in San Francisco. Micro fan, lamp lit, lamp enable. The OSD frame buffer memory chip. This is remarkably interesting to me. Swift ASIC, that's the little one we were seeing. I guess that just processes RGB coming from the cable wizard connector. So that's in the analog domain, and then that plugs directly into a digital video bus, which goes into ping. Oh, FPGA. Oh, the Genesis chip and the Spartan FPGA are doing resize. Is the Spartan just there to glue the Genesis chip on everything else? Those Genesis chips are commonly like what you'd find inside of monitors. Like they do video scaling in hardware, I think is what their main dig is. And this is that little PIC up here. Oh, that's I2C, and it's a big ol' shared I2C. Neat. Audio processor. That's a little Motorola. So I guess this Motorola chip is like the main thing that you'd find firmware for, I assume. Like running this whole thing. Yeah, I guess they just wanted some microcontroller with an external bus that would make it easy to plug into these chips. That is so cool. So we should definitely plug the power supply connector. Yeah, and we can probably find a pinout for this, the TI board here they're calling the Formatter ECA, which I guess takes 24-bit data and converts it into the DMD drive pulses, and does so with the benefit of a whole bunch of chips and microcontrollers. Buzzard. Wow, this whole thing is called the Buzzard. I found a buzzard that contains a penguin. That's kind of morbid. Oh wait, this is a different thing. What is the buzzard then? Because this block diagram matches what we have. This is different. This is a newer design with a single ASIC and a cold fire. Okay, I don't care about that one as much. Oh, this is great. So we have a frame buffer that we use for doing rate conversion. So much resizing. The Spartan ASIC? I think what they mean here is the combination of the Spartan FPGA and the Genesis ASIC. but I don't know. I mean, this is probably a document written by a technical writer who spent a bunch of time talking to the engineers, but it didn't, like, they might not necessarily have everything 100% checked out. I don't know. Yeah. Here they're showing the DMD is on the same board as the formatter card. Right? And then they're like, no, actually. Microscopic mirrors. Lamp. 270 watt. Arc in a glass bottle. IR thing with some elastomer. EEPROM. 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 I wonder what the possibility is that they like messed up a firmware upgrade or something and bricked it. I mean, nobody does firmware upgrades on projectors. I don't know how to tell whether the lamp is good or not. Just from like poking in the side, like it wasn't like shattered or anything, but I can't tell what the lifetime is like. Menu stuff. Command line. RS-232. Yeah, that I would love a serial port. Where does that come from? I assume that's via cable wizard. Yeah. Do we have a pinout for the cable wizard? Yeah, it'd be great if we could find like some startup messages or something. But it's also unclear whether the processor is even running. It might just be a power supply problem, and there's certainly a method to debugging this. We'd want to check out the power supply connector with a scope first, probably. But this is great. It might be nice to just do a stream where we actually go through the service manual and actually try to service it. Oh, here we go. How are you supposed to verify the projector software is recent if it doesn't power on? I think this is the state we're in. Power's up, but the logo screen doesn't appear. Keypad is lit. Fans are running. Huh. Could be the color wheel, the fan, the photodiode, the controller, power supply, the optical engine. Yeah. Fru. don't see anything wrong with the optics so far, which is pretty cool, but could be subtle problems for sure. Oh. They're just unplugging that. Cool. Is this going to go into the power supply at all? That is definitely the photodiode. That's cool. I'm a little surprised the photodiode didn't have a shielded cable. It's quite possible, actually, the light level is just so intense that the voltage is actually quite significant across the photodiode.
Right.
Elevator shaft is what they call that. Interesting. Oh, upgrading the software. You need a... Oh, it's over the serial port. Oh, that's beautiful. So even if they don't have pinouts for this, I'm sure we can figure out where the serial port goes. If it's real RS-232, there's going to be an RS-232 line driver chip on here. That might even be... Yeah, we can dig around in there and find it. But if we can find the RS-232 line driver, we can just attach a serial port to that and then download the software that way. So that might be one of the next things to try. If the power supply is good and we like all the basic stuff checks out. Yeah. Yeah. That might be one of the next things to do. Not tonight, but next time we're in here. Cool, there's some video tests. Parts list. Alright, I think that's it for today. The manual is delightful. Oh, does it give the pinout? I missed that. What did they call that? The cable wizard. 36 pin. Oh, that is an IEEE 1284 connector. Wizard. Mouse output? Oh, right. Some of these old things would actually emulate a mouse, like a PS2 mouse or something, using the remote control. Cable wizard. I think we have to find this elsewhere and or figure it out ourselves. Cable wizard. Ooh. Whoa. That's a little bit of what... I mean, we could find that same info just by testing the cable we have. I don't think that's what we want, but that's interesting. I don't think any of these are useful, but I think we can just figure it out by looking at the circuit board. I really can't leave well enough alone with this, can I? So I would expect it to be in the vicinity of this connector, although it certainly doesn't need to be. Where would the other end be? I assume that Motorola chip under here. So they could put it over there. I would expect it to be kind of over here, maybe.
That's like your second billion hours.
Stephanie asks if I'm sure the lamp is still inside. The lamp is still there. The lamp is not missing or just like shattered or anything. I don't know if it works, but the lamp is present. It might be on the back side too. There isn't much on the back side, but there's a little bit. Anyway, I don't quite have the patience to look up all the chips on here and see if any of these are RS-232 line drivers, but if you do, or if you just happen to see one you recognize, then leave me a comment. Otherwise, I will save this for a future stream and we can dig in here and see where the serial port happens to be. Stephanie is really putting her bets on a bad capacitor. Well, we'll have to check that out in the future. But yeah, it's possible. I don't know. There's a lot that it could be, right? It could be a bad capacitor. It could be bad firmware. It could be just what else would cause this problem besides a bad capacitor and bad firmware? Possibly something with the color wheel or one of the fans or the lamp, but I don't know about that. Maybe just some damaged semiconductor elsewhere. So, yeah. Yeah, we already checked the thermal fuse. Alright, well, that's all the debugging for tonight, but we will come back to this later and check the power supply and check for the serial port and do all the other things that you're all yelling at me to do right now, but that's all for now. So, do we have any Tuco before we end? I think I can get you some Tuco. Stephanie, there's no reset button on the thermal fuse, but we checked it and it's fine. Oh. I'm having trouble steering the camera. I wonder if the gimbal is having another communications failure. Oh, no, I can move it. Oh, I just forgot where the end stop is. I think Tuco is right over here. Yeah. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, Tino's like, great, another item to debug besides the RS whatever simulator and the C90. Well, yeah, there's always plenty of broken hardware in the world. It's not like I can be the, you know, I'm not gonna like solve the problem that like not all of the electronics in the world work, but I think we can like dig into things and try to find interesting stuff to analyze while we're here. So I think that's what I'm trying to do. We did already check the thermal fuse. I'm not going to go over that again. And yep, cat. There's definitely cat. Yeah, cool. Electron Ash says, great stuff. Thanks again for the stream. I'm really looking forward to the next one now. I may even have that formatter board as I couldn't bear to throw it out. Yeah, right? I would love to do something interesting with this formatter board, as it's apparently called. What a strange name. Alright, Catch you folks later.